This is the month of broken bones in our household. I have my 16-year-old about a month ago broke his left elbow. And about the same time, I broke a rib in my chest. As opposed to a rib in my anywhere else. I don't know why I needed that differentiation. So Cohen had a broken elbow. I had a broken rib. My oldest just broke his wrist. So we have a lot of broken bones in our house right now. And a lot of broken bones means a lot of casts, a lot of slow moving, a lot of weird sleep, and just kind of a house full of accidents. And that's just kind of how life is. And it hasn't been a bad month. It's just been a unexpected month. And I saw this message from my friend Dustin, who's one of my favorite humans in the entire world. He is traveled with him for about a decade. We've spent a lot of time on airplanes and vans and buses and venues and hotel rooms, and we've lived a lot of life in a lot of places together. And he was one of my very first close introverted friends, because my world has been pretty full of extroverts, and he was the anomaly and a delightful one. But he posted this message on Instagram, and it was this idea of, it was about the difference between victory pursued versus victory achieved. And it got me started thinking, because as he was talking through it and as I was thinking about it, it's this idea that when we do things in our minds, we think about what happens if everything goes right. And when we start to do it, then things become imperfect. Things become unexpected. Things become slightly different than we thought. And as it all fleshes out, as it all comes to life, we start to see the value of those imperfections. We start to see how beautiful the unexpected things are. And when we imagine something, we imagine it as perfect. But when we do something, it never is. And the gap is where the beauty is. As it comes to life, it becomes something else. It starts to be shaped by our shortcomings, by our assumptions, by our values, by our priorities, frankly, by our humanity. And when I read that about victory pursued versus victory achieved, I recognized it immediately. And the funny thing is, I may not have verbalized it or said it that way, but I've had a term for it that I've had for about 15, maybe 20 years. And that term is happy accidents. I'd get on stages, I would be in moments, I would do things, and some of my favorite moments were happy accidents. Some of my favorite things that happened were happy accidents. And they were where the reality deviated from the expectations, and sometimes in a really beautiful way. Really like this TV show, Big Bang Theory. And there's an episode where Sheldon and Amy are getting married, and Sheldon is standing in the apartment. He's getting dressed, and he's practicing his bow tie. And Sheldon is a very particular person. Everything is very specific and detailed and obsessive. And as he's tying this bow tie, he's so frustrated because he can't ever get it perfect. He can't ever get it quite up to his level of expectation. And he's frustrated by it. And it was really interesting because as he keeps trying, Amy looks at him and said, "That's the beauty of asymmetry. It's the beauty of the unexpected imperfections." And if we'll take a minute, we can look at them and see that that's where the beauty is. That's where the humanity is. Because at the end of the day, I don't think that we really fall in love with perfection. I think we fall in love with the asymmetry. We fall in love with some of the incongruities. We fall in love with some of the balance between. And the funny thing is, whenever Amy said that's the beauty of asymmetry, that was actually the moment that something clicked in Sheldon's head. That was the arc. That was the start of the arc towards his big breakthrough, because he realized how much a part of art and science and reality imperfection is. That's what happens with happy accidents. It's not a mistake you survive. It's the moment the real thing finally shows up. Because that's where the beauty is. If it went according to plan, then I think I could lie to myself that I can control it. I can't control it. The unexpected, the asymmetry is the beauty. It is the magic. It is the science and art and life all at once. And I think it's part of what I really loved about music. Because when you walk onto stage, and I've talked about this in other episodes, when you walk on a stage, it's controlled chaos. You don't know what's going to go wrong. You don't know what's going to be unexpected. You don't know what's going to short out. You don't know where your finger is going to slip. You don't know where something is going to throw a curveball at you. But in all those years, the happy accidents are the places where we discovered something unexpected. Sometimes that thing that was unexpected was awful. We've all seen videos of that on YouTube where somebody's playing the wrong note. Somebody's doing something utterly ridiculous. I can remember, this is a derailing moment, but I'm just going to lean into it. This band Evanescence, years ago, they were on their very first Video Music Awards. And they were on the MTV Video Music Awards, and they came out and they played this song, and it was their big hit. And this was their entering the scene. And I thought it was really amazing. There's a backstory to this that I won't go into, but I had a vested interest in what played out. So Amy Lee got on stage and she started playing the song. And as she's playing the song, she's playing and singing, and she feels a little tentative, like something is not quite right. And what had happened is whenever they pushed her keyboard out there, they had accidentally unplugged it. When they unplugged it, she had actually changed the key of her keyboard, and she had pitched everything a half step up in order to play the song and get her in her range that she wanted to be in. When they unplugged it, it reset it. So everybody else thought they were playing in this key, and Amy Lee was playing in this key. And she played the song. It's her all by herself. And then the string section comes in, because it's a big Video Music Awards. String section comes in along with her, and all these really amazing musicians. You can see the conductor make an audible to all the string musicians. Hey, everything's a half key up. Everything's a half key different. So they were modulating on the fly. They were changing it on the fly. And then the band comes in. It gets to the big build of the song, the big moment. And the band comes in and they are all one half step off. And for the next minute and a half, all you hear is chaos. And nothing gets resolved because nobody realizes what's happening. And that was one of those accidents that wasn't really a happy accident. And then it gets to the very end of it. And I encourage you to get on YouTube and look this up, because it gets to the end of the song and Amy Lee leans forward into the microphone and you see her mouth the words, "Wow." And it was not the best moment. That is not a happy accident. And that's one of those accidents that we're all really terrified of. We're really scared that that's going to happen, that we're going to get something wrong. And I'm telling you that, and I'm maybe giving you a little bit of PTSD, because we've all had those moments, but there's also the opposite moment that happens. And these are the moments that actually really move me. Coldplay's got a live album, and in that live album, they're playing the song Fix You. And as they're playing it, Chris Martin is singing this lyric. And as they're singing it, something happens and he gets a little bit choked up or tongue tied or something happens and he misses the lyrics on this section. And whenever he misses the lyrics on this section, the funny thing that happens that is spectacularly beautiful is that as he dips, the crowd just swallows him up, and all you can hear is their voices. All you can hear is them singing with every bit of gusto that they had that line. And I can remember the first time I heard that, I actually kind of choked up a little bit. And I choked up because I think that's happened to a lot of us. And I recognized this imperfect moment that demonstrated something really beautiful. They carried him. And something that could not be manufactured or rehearsed or or meaningful except by it being a happy accident. And just for a moment, the crowd swallowed up that falter and their voices filled every inch of what that moment could hold. Every musician wants to be in that moment. I want to be in that moment where it is this partnership between stage and audience and something magical happens. The imperfection didn't interrupt the magic. It created the conditions for it. Nobody will look back at that show and remember that Chris Martin faltered. Everybody will look back at that show and see the moment that the crowd carried the magic. And I think that's true of more than music. That's just the place that it shows up and the place that I see it the most clearly. Because when we imagine life, we imagine the beginning, we imagine the exciting, we imagine the electric, we imagine everything full of possibilities and what happens if it's all perfect. We imagine the arrival, we imagine everything finally coming together the way that we imagined it, the way we pictured it. And in our heads, we live in those moments before we've done a single thing. And I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I am so invested in the perfection of my imagination that I will actually not do the thing that I imagine doing because I'm afraid that I'll mess it up. At this point in my life, I want to be less afraid of messing it up. I want to be less afraid of that, oh wow moment, and more hopeful for the, oh wow moment. And I'm just going to acknowledge the truth. With every effort and every attempt that we make, both versions are possible. It can be, oh, wow. Or it could be, oh, wow. So at this point in my life, I'm going to lean into the risk. I'm going to choose more of that risk. There's this line, everybody who knows me knows that I'm a big fan of Ted Lasso. And there's this line that stuck out to me as I was sitting down and writing this and thinking about this. I'm going to read it so I make sure that I get it exactly right. Because he said it better than I could. Fairy tales do not start, nor do they end in the dark forest. That son of a gun always shows up smack dab in the middle of the story. But it will all work out. It may not work out how you think it will or how you hope it does, but believe me, it all works out exactly as it's supposed to. The dark forest is the long, slow middle, and it's the obstacle, and it's the place that the oh wow comes from. We earn the oh wow in that long, slow middle, in that dark forest, in that risk. Because that's the part that doesn't look like progress from the inside. That's the part that will never make a good story while you're living in it. And that's the part where the happy accidents actually happen. The long, slow middle isn't the weight between the good parts. It's where the good parts come from. On some level, this is something that the reason I'm processing this is also to remind myself of it because I need to be reminded. I need to realize that I'm living in this. I need to embrace it. When I started this show, I imagined that I was going to do this sitting in my office alone. I imagined that I was going to sit here and look at the camera on my computer and do this quiet moments, just me and my thoughts. And I knew that in getting started, that if I did it all alone, it was going to make it harder. And I needed some accountability. I needed some outside help and influence. So I reached out to Taylor and I just texted him and said, "Hey, can I do my very first podcast? Can you help me with it?" And immediately he said, "Yeah, sure, of course. Come on." So I came down here and said and recorded the first episode of the podcast. And all of a sudden, it wasn't the very first one. It became the home of how we do this. It became the unexpected and happy accident that has shaped this every bit as much as any other part of what we're doing in this podcast. I never saw it coming. And as we've done this, there's also been other things that have been kind of coming to life inside of me. And this has given an opportunity for processing and thinking out loud. And, like I say in a lot of episodes, this is where I say it messy before anyone assumes that it was tidy all along. And this has also been a place that this idea that has kind of become a new business came to life. And it was born out of this. It's something that had been percolating inside of me for the better part of 25 years. But it's coming to life. And it was born from the small door of reaching out to do episode 1 of a podcast, finding that meaningful collaboration, finding a home. And in finding a home, it was safe. And there was this accidental byproduct of what we're doing with this company, North Star, that's kind of coming to life right now. And none of it could have been possible without Taylor. None of it could have been possible without some of the other people that are involved in this. And it was another kind of happy accident. I didn't plan any of it. I just started talking. And this is episode 40. And 40 episodes in, we are talking and thinking and processing and everything else. And I'm realizing how much of my life the thing that built the meaningful things in my life, I would like to tell myself that I did them. But I think more often than not, what I did was a thing and something more beautiful came out of it. I don't even know if that makes sense. And I'm swimming in my head right now thinking about it. I just did this thing. I texted Taylor and said, "Can you help me?" And I thought I was making an ask that was this big, and it became a thing that was this big. A few years ago, I was in Charleston. One of the things that I really like about going to new cities is I love mid-sized cities, places where I can actually walk around. And instead of renting a car, I like to just walk. And we got a place, little Airbnb on King Street, just on the wrong side of the tracks, just across the highway from where all the other cool King Street stuff is. And one night we decided that we were going to walk from our Airbnb down to this Italian restaurant. And as we were walking along, we looked and, oh, here's a really great coffee shop. It's already closed, but hey, make sure that we stop there tomorrow because I love coffee a little too much. And we kept walking, and we walked past this long, dark building that was nondescript otherwise. And at some point, this door ahead of us opens up, and this amazing smell comes out. Holy smokes. And as soon as we smell that amazing smell, it's like, we're not eating Italian tonight, we're eating there. We walked through the door, and we walked in and found out it was a Spanish restaurant, kind of the tapas, small plate style place. And I had some of the best paella I have ever had in my entire life. So good. From this nondescript building that we were just walking by, and the door opened at the right time, and we smelled the right smell, and all of a sudden something magical happened. And I thought it was really interesting because we walked in, we turned around, we walked in, and we were at this restaurant, And as we were in Charleston, we actually ended up at dinner with some other people from the city because oddly enough, I end up meeting people wherever I go. And we were talking and we asked them who'd been to that restaurant. And none of the people that were there had been to that restaurant yet. They're all locals. We were the outsiders. But somehow we had discovered that restaurant. We had discovered that restaurant because we were walking along. We were available. We were doing this thing and we encountered the happy accident. We kind of gave ourselves to it. The imperfection, the asymmetry. And we found something none of them had found yet. And we were able to tell them stories and encourage them to go. And of course, I told them, make sure you eat the paella. It's amazing. More happy accidents. And I want to say this because I want to go a little step further. I call them happy accidents, and I've called them that for my whole life. But lately, I've been thinking about the difference between surprise and accidents, surprise and happy accidents. I think the only difference there between surprise and happy accidents is that surprises just have better PR. We all love a good surprise, but I want to lean in on both of them, both the surprise and the happy accident, because they're all the same thing and they all can have the same outcome if I'm present for them. Because the imperfect conclusion isn't the consolation prize. The walk that led to a discovery, the falter that created the moment, the asymmetry that is the beauty, the unexpected. I have two siblings. One of them is 15 years older than me. One of them is 20 years older than me. So needless to say, I'm an accident. And when I was a kid, because other kids like to say mean things, every so often somebody would try to tease me and make fun of me because I was an accident. It was always kind of humorous to me because I would just look at them. I'd be like, I don't care if I was an accident or not. I'm here. That's all that really matters. And my dad, who's kind of a cartoon character himself, would always tell me when I was a kid, we had your sisters, we had a girl. We had your brothers, we had a boy. And we thought, we're all done. What else could we have? Then along came you. And it kind of made me laugh because, again, the happy accident, the unexpected. So maybe I fell in love with the unexpected from the very beginning, because it turns out the accidents can be good ones. The broken bones can lead to good stories. The scars on your knees and cuts on your elbows can turn into good stories. Happy accidents can make life richer. Thanks for being here this week.